craziness. But New Energies. Now, New Energies is going to feel very similar to the original. I reckon it's about 87% original Catan, 13% new, things like power plants. So let's just stop the video right there, and do you know what? Everything I recorded last night, I decided to scrap and start again. So I got thinking overnight that this 87% and 13%, I'm actually onto something here. Now, if you've ever played Catan, you know exactly what it is, but boy oh boy, were those graphics a bit outdated? Yeah, well, it's an old game now, so definitely. So think about this 87% being a new, modern, fresh version of Catan. It's exactly the same Catan with the exact same tiles, but the artwork's better, the components is better, everything's better. So now let's talk about that 13%. Now, have you ever played a game that you love so much and you just want to get that expansion just to add more extra bits on top? The original game's fine, the original game's great, but expansions add fresh new ideas and just adds a bit more. Well, think of Catan New Energies as like an expansion. Think of it as you get the core modern game, the best, most refreshed version of this game, plus you get like 2 module expansions added in for free. Now, if that isn't value for money, I don't know what is. Look, that's basically Catan New Energies. So let's go in and discuss how the game plays, and then let's really talk about who this game's truly for. Now, the island of Catan is going to look very similar if you've played the original. We have hex tiles, and these hex tiles are going to have numbers. Of course, the game, you're going to roll those dice, and that dice number is going to correspond to some of these tiles on here. So I rolled a 12, any 12, there's one over here. So if you've got that particular number, so purple here has a town on that hex, that means they're going to collect a resource. So in this instance, they would collect a lumber resource. And you've got here lumber, brick, natural fibers, food, and steel. So you're going to be collecting those resources, and you're going to be trading those resources in for more roads, more towns, and more cities. That is Catan 101. But New Energies is going to give you a lot more going on here. So cool, we have the standard Catan, but we now have power plants. Over here, the brown ones are going to be the fossil fuel power plants. Over here, the green ones are going to be your renewable power plants. Awesome. Remember, brown bad, green good. That's the standard thing you just need to remember with this game. Cool, so we're going to be putting power plants out. Over the course of the game, we're going to be putting these power plants out. Now, if I roll, say, an 8, yeah, cool. Yellow will get a food resource, but yellow will now also get an energy token. These energy tokens are going to give you a whole range of bonuses there, like more cards, more resources. You're going to be able to put away hazards. So over the course of the game, there's going to be a whole bunch of hazards on here. And the way hazards work is, let's say we've got a hazard here on 6. If we roll a 6 going forward and there's a hazard token there, well, unfortunately, purple and yellow now misses out because hazards is environmental pollution. And that's what we're trying to get rid of in this game. We're trying to get rid of all that environmental pollution. And to do that, we have the environmental inspector. Now, this replaces the robber in standard Catan. Well, when you roll a 7, the environmental inspector is going to get very cranky. And if you have over 7 cards, you're going to lose half of your cards rounded down. So that's a bad thing. But one of these things over here is this one right here. All of a sudden now, if I spend 2 energy tokens, I can flip this over. And now all of a sudden now I have a limit up to 10 cards. So if I have 10 cards and environmental inspector comes knocking, I can go, do you know what, buddy? I get 10 cards. Doesn't bother me, you're not taking any of my cards away. So that's awesome bonus. But yeah, energy tokens, so that is new. And again, that is based off power plants. Now, one thing that's different here, around the outside here, we got a whole bunch of tokens, so event tokens. At the start of every person's turn, they're going to draw a certain amount of event tokens here, and they're going to place them out on the board. So right now, we are here, right here, we've got 1 event token. So I've drawn out 1 event token, just going to put it on its matching spot, which is right there. Excellent. Now, right now, nothing happens. But if this island was filled up with these event tokens, an event would happen. Now, I won't bore you with that, but pause it right here. Whole bunch of events. Awesome stuff. Remember, brown bad. So brown events bad, green events good. That's all you need to know. Cool, so the events now happen. After the event's gonna happen, we're now gonna roll our dice and we're gonna collect our resources. Awesome, standard Catan, love that. Then after that, we can also trade. Awesome. Then lastly, we're looking to get to 10 points. That's the end goal of this game. So how do we get to 10 points? Well, for every town, it's going to be worth 1 victory point. For every city, it's going to be worth 2 victory points. There's going to be random victory points in this development deck, and there's also going to be these shared goals over here. Now, what's going to happen is, the first one, nice and easy. If we have 5 roads, if we put out 5 roads in a row, we're going to take the longest trade route. And as long as we have the most or tied most roads from that point onwards, we're going to keep those 2 victory points. But the other one, which is new, is cleanest environment. Now, how do we do that? We're going to have to collect 3 cleanup cards. Cleanup cards are going to be in this development deck. So eventually we're going to be collecting these development cards, getting some cleanup cards, and then hopefully having the cleanest environment. Because remember, that is what we're trying to do. So you're going to get 2 victory points there, victory points there, victory points for your towns and cities, and random victory points in there. Remember, race to 10. Now let's talk about LF. What is LF? It is your local environmental footprint. Cool, fancy thing, but all you need to know is the higher the number, the bad, lower the number, better. How do we get LF? Well, putting out our towns, that's going to give us +1 LF. Putting out our cities is going to give us +2 LF. And if we put out any of these fossil fuels, we're also going to get another +1 LF. So right now, we're at the start of the game. We've just set up the game. I've got 1, 2, 3, Pig's got 3, Purple's got 3, so we've got a combined total of 9. So over the course of the game, we're going to be getting more and more, and this is going to be changing. If we go up higher, more event tokens are going to come out. That's how the LF score works. There's also going to be bonuses for having like the best LF score, and there's a whole bunch of things going on related to that. So you just need to know, the more towns and cities you put out, and the more fossil fuel power plants you put out, the higher your LF score is. But how do we lower our LF score? Well, that's by putting out cleaner renewable energies. Cool, think solar and hydro and all those cool stuff. Okay, let's say now we've played a renewable energy. So that means I get to put out firstly one of these green power plants. Let's put that out there. But it's also going to give us a green token. Once I do that, I get to put that green token in the bag. Now, all of a sudden now, when I draw out, someone draws out a token later on, hopefully we're starting to draw out some of these green ones and get some positive events happening. Now, how do we pay for power plants? Well, we now have science cards, and that is new in New Energies. So 1 science card to put out a fossil fuel, 3 science cards to put out a renewable energy. And that is pretty much everything you need to know to get started. Energy, rolling, collect your resources, do any actions you want to do, crack on. Okay, so now that we've talked about the game and you know how it plays, now you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about those expansions. Now, that's not what this game is. This game isn't expansions, it's its own game, but you can truly treat this game like it's got expansions. So there is nothing stopping you from treating the events and the LF, the environmental, the local environmental footprint. You could treat that as one expansion, and you could treat the power plants and the science cards as another expansion, and the energy as another expansion. So you got 2 different expansions that you can treat it like. There is nothing stopping you. Now, this is not in the rulebooks, but there is nothing stopping you from just playing this game just as core Catan and ignoring everything else. You can still play the game exactly the same. But then there's nothing stopping you from just playing with maybe just one of them. Add in the power plants or add in the LF and the events. Nothing stopping you at all, except the fact that's not what the designer intended the game for. But that's what I do on this. I really try and think about what this game is actually for, who this audience is truly for. Now, we have the original Catan, and a lot of people know and absolutely love and adore this game. It is a modern classic. Now, I say modern classic a lot, but this is it. This is one of those big beasts, Catan. Now, why, if I have this, would I bother with this? Well, the main reason is I would buy this to actually give this one away or sell it, because this gives me everything that this box offers, but better. Like I said, better artwork, better components. Look how thick this wood is. Amazing. The other thing which we haven't talked about is, if you have a look at this, oh, now this we didn't get in the original Catan. Actually, let's go have a look here on this camera here. Look, actually get like little inserts there. It's nice. And everything that came in, there was no plastic. Environmentally friendly. Cool. So look, there's a reason right there. You want a Catan that is environmentally friendly. But look, it's not just that. It's the fact that Catan, you know, it's been around a long time. So for a lot of people, potentially the game's getting stale. So how do you freshen that up in your household? Well, you bring in New Energies. New Energies is going to give you the exact same vibes, the exact same gameplay. And if you're playing with new people, you can skip all of those other things. Again, treat it like an expansion. Get rid of those expansions and just play the core game. Amazing. You can still play with the longest route. You can still play with the cleanest environment, nothing changes. You can still play a core game of Catan. But if you're playing with someone who's maybe played a few games, maybe you've played this a few times, and maybe it's time to branch out. Well, let's add in those power plants. Yeah, that's going to add in energy. Another thing you're thinking about. It's going to add in another resource, those science cards. Awesome. What about those events now? Those events, how much do they really add? Well, in the short term, not much. But that LF meter is constantly changing. You're actually thinking about that environmental local footprint as you're playing. And every time you branch across to the next one there, it gets a little bit more stressful when those brown things come out. You don't want the brown ones. We know brown is bad. But here's the thing. Is it really that bad when they come out? Not really. It's pretty friendly. So I would say, yeah, look, play with the events all the time, because at the end of the day, it's not really that harsh. Look, you might lose, a card here and there, so to speak, but you're not losing points. You're not losing the game over that. And it just adds just a different dynamic. So I would say always play with that. But if they're a little bit more experienced, add in the power plants. Or ignore what I do and just, because it's New Energies, just play with everything all the time from day dot, because why not? It's fresh, it's new. But I truly want this to replace this. Now let's talk about the negatives. Now, it would be dismissive of me as a reviewer not to tell you all of the bad, annoying things, except there truly is none. Again, if you treat it the way I treat it, like it's just extras on top of the original, everything about this is better than the original. Like I said, the artwork, if I had to complain about the original, the artwork was a bit bland, a bit outdated. Now, it's fresh, it's modern. Probably, if anything, how about we maybe update these little numbers maybe in the future? Yeah, they're still looking old and tired, but overall, I don't have any complaints. The components in this is top notch. Again, just gives you everything you want, but better. Look, I don't want to be that guy who truly has nothing bad to say about the game. I just don't. Look, maybe if anything, look, the hazards get a little bit annoying, but you kind of want that to add a little bit more strategy and thinking to the original. I kind of like everything that they've done in New Energies. And I kind of think out of all of the Catan games, this is the closest to the original Catan feeling that I would recommend over the top of the original. Now, I'm not going to talk about every Catan in this video, because this video is all about New Energies. But the one I do want to talk about is Dawn of Humankind. As I mentioned, this is the gamer's gamer. This just takes Catan, just makes it a bit more complicated, a bit longer, a little bit more thinky. If you really want a harder version, if Catan, you've outgrown it because the original Catan's just too easy for you now, well, that's probably the best version to go for. But if you're still at that level where you just want just good old-fashioned Catan goodness, but maybe with a few extra twists, then New Energies is my recommendation. I really do question why I would have this still in my collection. And that's kind of insulting, because I love the original Catan, but I'm sorry, this is just a better version. So look, let me know in the comments below, if you were to make the next Catan, like the next version, the next one in this franchise, what would you do differently? Look, we've gone through a lot of different things, including that soccer fever, which is just out there. What would you do next? I was thinking, what about something like Dwellings of Eldervale? What about bringing in a little bit of combat, or a bit of wizards, a bit of dragons? I mean, I don't know, I really like Dwellings. I wonder if we could make a Catan, like basically a basic version of Dwellings. Yes, we probably could. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Let me know in the comments below, what new version of Catan would you do? Anyway, look, it's been a long video, so look, go check out Catan New Energies in your local retail store. A great version in the Catan franchise.